Okay, according to Mr. Google, it's 5:01, so we're going to get started here. So, uh, welcome to our continuing series of presentations for the College of Health Sciences Week. We've had great presentations over the last couple of days, and so we are looking forward to tonight's presentation as well. In the event that there is a technology issue, whether it's a Zoom crash or whatever, wait for a second, wait for a minute or two, and then log back in. We're not going to end it because of that. So just give that warning to everyone. So I'd like to welcome all the participants here. Looking forward to tonight's presentation. We're going to talk about nursing in the middle 21st century, which we're not that far away from. And tonight's speaker is Jacqueline Montgomery is a SUNY Poly alum, and she has been in nursing leadership for over 14 years now. Currently, she serves as the Chief Nursing Officer at Ellis Medicine, community-based hospital, and has multiple locations throughout Schenectady, and I'm assuming Albany as well. Yep. But we're thrilled that you're here, Jackie, and thank you for taking the time. And I will be monitoring the chat. If you have a question, if you don't want to ask it, you can pop it up, and I can ask that for you. Or there will be time at the end for you to unmute yourself and ask questions if need be. So with no further ado, Jackie, thanks for doing this, and we're looking forward to your presentation.
Thanks so much, Mark. I appreciate it. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining. Appreciate you guys taking the time on this Wednesday evening. Like Mark said, my name is Jackie Montgomery. I am the Chief Nursing Officer at Ellis Medicine in Schenectady, and have been in this role for 2 years, but in leadership for quite some time. And as I'm sure many of you are very aware, the wonderful world that is nursing has been continuing to grow and shift at a pretty rapid rate over the past few years, and we expect to see a lot of change as we move forward into the mid-21st century. So I want to talk a little bit today about where we came from, where we are, and where we're going. I would ask that you guys please interact, ask questions. I do have some attempts at some interactions. Full transparency, never use Zoom. I usually use Teams. So if this does not work, then we will just interact through chat, and you can raise hands as opposed to using the stream alive. So we'll see if that plays nice with us. All right. So first things first, just going to talk a little bit about, again, where we are in healthcare. This is, as we all know, a constantly evolving world, and the speed of change with the surge of AI that we're seeing is really going to continue to change in a way that we probably haven't seen, and a pace that we haven't seen historically. So let's talk about a little bit about where we started, where we are today, and where healthcare is going. Nursing is very much in for a ride as healthcare continues to spin. And for those that are in leadership positions, it's really important to understand how we can meet the needs of the healthcare world and of the nurses in a way that's safe, effective, and appealing. Recruitment and retention are really crucial in a way that is at an all-time high. So I'm going to try this. Let me know if you can see this screen. Are you able to see the Stream Alive screen?
Yes, we are.
All right, perfect. So as we start off here, let's talk a little bit about what the future of nursing looks like from your perspective. So if you can put in the chat one word that comes to mind when you think of the future of nursing. And we'll see if it shows up in here. Are we seeing anything in the chat? Aha, look at that. All right, I'll give it a minute as people put in their thoughts. All right, so as our comments are coming in, let's take these one at a time. So the first one that I see here is technology. Agreed 100%. The ways in which technology is included in the work that we do is going to continue to grow. We're seeing virtual nursing, we're seeing virtual providers, we're seeing changes in our documentation, we're seeing changes in the way our vitals connect to our EMR. We're seeing differences in the ways that the EMR themselves are built. So agreed 100%, a ton of work with technology. Needed, also very much agree there. As the world is moving forward, it's really important that we stay at the cutting edge of what that technology looks like so that we can better serve the patient population that we have. So this is an incredibly important piece for us, and one that has a cost associated with it, right? So we do have to consider the financial implications, but really important for us to dive into that technology. Evolving 100%, it continues to evolve very quickly. And scary. I think that this is a great one, and one that is important that we talk about, right? I think that we have a number of different generations of nurses in front of us. We have nurses coming in who are straight out of nursing school and went into nursing school straight out of high school, and they were born with technology at their fingertips. And then we have nurses who are really have to adapt to some of this technology, and not only the technology, but also the staffing. And I'll talk more about this later on in the presentation, but what the staffing of a hospital system looks like is going to be very different based on the individuals that we have, the workforce coming into nursing. So all really great feedback, and I appreciate that. Let me get you back to our presentation here, and we will potentially go back into Stream Alive for future questions. All right. Get back into our slideshow. I apologize, we're a little bit slow here. All right, so let's talk a little bit about what the transition that nursing has made thus far. We started in the early, let's go back as far as the early 20th century, right? We look at back at the Florence Nightingale days, where nursing was really seen as a vocation, as a calling, as a lifestyle that began the story of nursing as the art of caring. And we talk still so much about that in nursing school, but the reality that we see in the hospital setting, in the home care setting, can oftentimes be very different from that. And it's important for us to understand the art of caring as our foundation so that we can continue to build on that and not forget who we are and where we came from. So regardless of how far we go into technology, it's really important to continue to tie back to that really foundational piece of what nursing is. Fast forward a bit to the mid-20th century, we see that growth mindset where nurses began focusing on formalized education, on the nursing programs, our associate degree programs, our diploma programs that were popping up. And now we're seeing our baccalaureate programs, our master's programs, our doctorate programs. So really continued focus on that educational component as well as professional opportunities. So it was no longer just your bedside nurse who works in a hospital or maybe a military setting, and really began to expand into a more holistic environment and a broader scope of job possibilities. Looking further up into the early 21st century, we saw the workforce growth and transition, and we also saw a direction towards magnet focus, right? So we have our ANCC magnet work that really focuses on kind of our 14 pillars, and those pillars look at empowerment, they look at leadership, they look at best practice. It's really a much broader range of professional growth. So again, leaning on educational growth and professional growth, both of which are incredibly important. As those of you living the world of academia, I'm sure that this is a huge area that we want to continue to look at. As everyone here knows, there was a significant shift in 2020, a true redefinition of what it meant not only to be a nurse, but really to work in healthcare during our COVID-19 pandemic. We saw a lot of loosening of current structure. We saw new exceptions being made. We saw growth opportunities. And we also saw a huge shift into virtual care. And that was a direction that healthcare was always going to go, but really saw an expedited timeline in getting towards virtual care when we had no other option. And then we talk about the mid-21st century, right? So here we are, here we're going. What is that going to look like? Here in 2025, we have seen a number of challenges in response to a lot of what we just talked about. So not only the technological challenges, but also the face of the workforce is very different. In our current state today, we have national nursing vacancy rates in bedside hospital nursing that are around 15 to 20%, which is truly astounding. You figure 1 in 5 nurses is now either an opening or an agency nurse. And that agency staff is really a part of what we saw as part of this concern as well. I will say within New York State, my apologies, within New York State, those vacancy rates are lower in the double digits, so about 10 to 12%, but no stranger to openings and an area that we really are looking to bridge a gap. The priority of our registered nurses are changing. Instead of a lifetime career on one nursing unit from the age of 18 to retirement, we're now seeing individuals really focus on flexibility and what their purpose is. I adjunct at the Belanger School of Nursing in Schenectady, New York, as an adjunct clinical instructor. And I oftentimes talk to my senior students about, I kind of joke, when they grow up, what do you want to be, right? When you work as a nurse, you're always having to ask yourselves what you want to be when you grow up, because there's just such a plethora of options. It's no longer, as I said, just I'm going to be a nurse, I'm going to work at a bedside, and that will be my job. There's countless options within the world of bedside nursing, but then there's also so many other opportunities for nurses. You can work in education, you can work as a legal consultant, you can work in infectious disease, you can work at home health, you can be in leadership. There's just so many options. Growing as a CRNA, becoming an NP, just the depth and breadth of opportunities for nurses is larger than it's ever been, which is tremendous as an individual to have that many options. But what that does is takes the pool of existing nurses and really dilutes it over a very broad span. So this makes it very challenging to fill frontline positions when there's so many options that any one is one of a million to pick from. And this makes for a really competitive market, especially for the TA teams within the hospital setting who are working to recruit nurses to fill bedside vacancies. And so, again, really a blessing and a curse. So we're going to offer up another question here. I'm not going to switch over to the poll, but if we're able to just monitor the chat here, I'm going to ask that you just type your answer into chat here. If you were offered 2 different nursing jobs, which of these 2 would you pick? Would you pick a job that was offered to you at, let's call this option A, one with higher pay, with really your traditional 3 12-hour shifts a week? Or would you take position B that has a lower pay rate, but more flexible scheduling and a higher focus on wellness support? And I'll give it a minute for you guys to enter where you think that you would fall in there. All right, let's see. So we have our options coming in here. We have a few A's and a few B's, a little bit heavier on the B side. And that is exactly what we're seeing in the market today, is that the current incoming generation of nurses really wants flexibility. They want the ability to work when it's convenient and in a way that is good for their lifestyle. And this is something that we have been pushing for a long time in the world of nursing, right? Is ensuring that you have a proper work-life balance that's going to improve the longevity of your nurses. You're going to reduce the risk of burnout. What that does, on the other hand, is makes for a need for creativity in scheduling and in recruitment. because if individuals don't want to work your traditional 312s at a locked-in schedule of 7 to 7, then you need to offer different options in order to fill the gaps that you may have. And that is absolutely what we're seeing in our current state and what we expect to continue to see moving forward. So let's talk a little bit more about what that looks like in our current state. We know that by 2030, 1 in 5 Americans will be 65 or older. So really a significantly aging workforce as opposed to those that are coming into it. Really focusing on our value-based care and those outcomes in terms of quality and our technological advancement. We've talked about this a fair amount, the integration of AI into our EMRs, our virtual nursing or our virtual providers, utilization of robotics. We see a lot of this right now in surgical services as well as in the pharmacy, which gives a tremendous jump forward for us in the kind of care that we can deliver. And in the future state and ensuring that we can offer the highest quality and consistency in our care. And data analytics. So a lot of data right now is being pulled for CMS and other factors to ensure that we are compliant in the care that we offer. But that comes from the documentation that comes from our EMR. So you can see kind of the bouncing ball. The front line is so important to the longevity of the organization and to the financial state. And so a lot of that is based on reimbursement, and that reimbursement can be a huge challenge for hospitals. And so those financial pressures are truly growing every year. Again, another area that was a struggle, especially in New York State, but has been really expedited. Did someone have a comment? All right, so as we can see here, an important area that we are focusing on right now is the amount of stress that nurses are feeling in the workplace. As I shared, we're really focusing on decreasing staff burnout, and that work-life balance is such an important piece of that. We can see here that the stress that nurses are feeling, and those who are currently practicing who are on this call, I'm sure can resonate with this, is very high. We see here that nurses who feel no stress or a little stress are 4% of the respondents of this survey from 2023. Again, really at the tail end of the pandemic years. But the other 96% of our respondents feel between a moderate and a great deal of stress. And so understanding how we can decrease that stress in a way that continues to allow us to operate is really going to be the work that we have ahead of us. What comes next? Let's talk about nursing in the mid-21st century. We're really looking at a blended workforce. Those nurses who will be working in person at the bedside, along with virtual nurses. And this is, for some, a 4-letter word. There are a lot who are, as we heard earlier, scared of this future. It is the unknown. The care is very different. There's a concern that it's not as personable. It's a very, very different world. What it offers is a range for us in terms of the offering of care that we can give, as well as the geography in which we can do that. Continuous education opportunities. We see more and more often that nurses are coming into the front line with the expectation of a career ladder, the ability to continue their education and move on to NP positions, education positions. So really focusing on offering those opportunities as both a recruitment and a retention tool. Decision-making supported by AI, and still maintaining that holistic care. So really ensuring that we are looking back to our Florence Nightingale days, looking at the art of caring and how we can care for our patients as a whole person and not just a number in a hospital setting. All right, so what we're looking at now, and I think I mentioned this briefly earlier, was really flexibility and creativity. So there's a couple of ways that I wanted to touch on our focus here. The first is going to be in recruitment and retention. So speaking kind of personally from the work that I'm doing right now, we are making adjustments from those exclusive 12-hour shifts to flexible hours. So this can mean a couple of things, right? It can mean continuing 12-hour shifts, but instead of 7 to 7, maybe you work 11 to 11 or 3 to 3. It can also be shorter shifts. We also have increasing per diem and float pool teams. So different hospitals have very different focuses in terms of per diem pools. For me, I think that per diems are an absolute blessing in the healthcare world, and something that works really well for our nurses. It allows for people to work when they're able to work and also fill the gaps that exist in a schedule that needs patient or that needs employees. We recently started what we called a tiered per diem pool, and that shows that instead of just your standard per diem where maybe an employee can work twice a month, we have the opportunities for those employees to work on gradually increasing schedules that come with gradually increasing compensation. So per diem level 2 might work 6 shifts a month instead of 2, and one of those might be on a weekend. Or a per diem level 4 might work a lot of the weekend shifts you're looking at, but not a full weekend track. And the nice thing about these is that with the increasing levels comes increasing compensation, and really the top tier aligns pretty closely with what we see for contract labor. And contract labor is an incredible financial burden on the hospital setting, but it's also not good for quality care for patients, right? Oftentimes these nurses come through, they're there for 13 weeks, they move on. There's no buy-in to the community, passion for this specific patient population. You don't see the same levels of quality of care from a statistical level that you do for patients or for nurses who are employed and focusing on your patient population. So with these per diem pools, those higher tiers are closely aligned in compensation with those of your agency nurses. So we have seen at Ellis a great transition from contract labor to employed per diem nurses, which has increased our employed nurses, it has decreased our agency nurses, and it's increased our quality of care. So again, a reason that you just really need some flexibility and creativity in the staffing that you're doing. Self-scheduling and shift bidding. This is seen in most locations now, where nurses have the ability to electronically select their own schedules, with nurse leaders going in, balancing those schedules to ensure you don't have 2 nurses on one day and 10 the next. But really having that balanced schedule, but allowing the nurses to have that buy-in to say, this is what I can and cannot work, what works best for their life. Job sharing, where you may have, instead of a full FTE or one full-time position, you might have somebody who works half of the job and a friend who works the other half. And that is great for retention, so long as you can build that into a schedule. Ongoing communication, understanding those fluid needs. One of the most important things that a nurse leader can do is build relationships with their team. It's important to know your team as people, and not just as schedule fillers. Understand that nurse A's grandma was sick last week and to see how they are doing, and to know that nurse B is getting a new dog and to follow up with them on that. Really building those relationships to build trust and to continue to have that longevity in a relationship, and growing your retention pool. So that really is just part of those continuous check-ins, understanding that we're communicating with people as people first.
Jackie, a comment in the chat is, a person says, I feel like I always hear about nurses being understaffed, which is why I think stress level is higher.
Absolutely. So I would 100% agree with you. And as I mentioned earlier, we really see a lot of that with the vacancies that we see in hospitals right now, for what is truly about a fifth of the workforce to be short. You're going to have less nurses, you're going to have larger assignments, and that's going to increase some of that stress. So it really is a bottom-up approach in rebuilding what that staffing pool looks like, to put the supports in place that are needed to support those nurses and make for some of those smaller and more reasonable assignment sizes, and hopefully decrease those stressors for them. I will say too that it's also incredibly challenging to build into your schedule when you have all those new hires, right? So your time to consider, your time from a new hire for, let's say, an experienced nurse, going from a new hire, or from a posting to a new hire of an experienced nurse is between 60 and 100 days in this market. So you really need to plan ahead in what kind of positions you know that are going to become vacant, so that you can start recruiting into those holes and not leave the team short for too long. And once you have them in place, you really want to ensure that you have mental and emotional supports in place. You want to create an environment of psychological safety, and that includes check-ins when there are difficult events, ensuring that you're staffing appropriately, as we talked about, pulling in support systems. We have a group called EAP, which is the Employee Assistance Program. Different providers in different hospital settings have different variations in what that looks like, but you want to ensure that you have an organization that is psychologically safe. That also allows for individuals to report when they've made a mistake. You don't want it to have a punitive environment. You need to have an environment where you are learning from errors, and allowing that open dialogue so that you can understand what opportunities have existed and how you can put safeguards in place to prevent issues moving forward. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in future slides. And then looking at your operations and your day-to-day, really needing that innovation in the recruitment itself, and then focusing on retention. And as I mentioned earlier, having those educational ladders and financial supports in place to allow for growth opportunities within the frontline staff who are interested. You also want to encourage nursing innovation and workflow. So really looking at shared governance. And I know I mentioned early ANCC's Magnet program. They have both Magnet and Pathway to Excellence, which is essentially Magnet Light, but both are really focused on empowering your frontline staff. And a huge part of that is shared governance. So you want to allow the nurses on the units to have a voice, right? I know me as the chief nursing officer, I spend most of my day sitting in meetings in an office. I am not the best one to say, this is how you need to practice every day. I would much rather frontline nurses on the floor say, hey, we noticed that this is an issue. This is what would work best for us. And then it's my job to support and remove barriers to allow that to happen. So we do really want to encourage innovation at the bedside and allow those to take root and grow. So from Ellis Medicine, as I shared, there's a huge focus right now on really treating employees as humans first. It seems incredibly obvious, but unfortunately, it's not something that you see in every workplace. I can say that I have worked in environments where this has not been the focus, and it's incredibly disheartening, and you see the resultant turnover with that. So really understanding the need for flexibility, offering creative scheduling, the need for creativity, giving the staff a voice, and then really creating that environment of psychological safety, as I mentioned earlier. So question for you, and again, I'll have you guys just share in the chat, what is one style of innovation or one component of innovation that you would like to see your employer adopt in the future state? I will leave that question open as we move forward into our next slide. Let's talk a little bit about numbers.
Can you repeat the question real quick, Jackie?
Yeah, absolutely. What is one innovation in terms of technology that you would like to see a future employer adopt?
Okay.
All right. As we look at engagement metrics, so in the kind of behind the scenes of the hospital, there's a huge focus on engagement and ensuring that we are keeping our staff in a place that is, again, interesting for them to come into and engaging for them to stay. So as I mentioned, RN turnover and vacancy rate, unfortunately, have been at an all-time high for the past 5 years. So nationally, our RN turnover is about 16.4%. Year to date at Ellis, we're at about 10.8%. So better than the national average, would still like to get that down to the single digits. And our vacancy rate nationally is actually between 10 and 20%. I should edit this, is the New York average is 9.6%, and Ellis is at about 7.9 year to date. As I spoke of earlier, we are really focused on ensuring that we are getting frontline staff who want to be a part of the team and who want to stay. And a lot of that work is decreasing our agency utilization and increasing our employee to staff. So we have seen a tremendous decrease in agency utilization at Ellis Medicine over the past year, about a 70% decrease from last June to this fall. Nationally, we are seeing the opposite. We're continuing to see a notable increase of about 139% from 2020 to current. One of the challenges there is that nursing turnover is incredibly expensive, right? You are wasting the nurse's time. You're losing time where you don't have an employed member of the team. And for the turnover itself, it's about $61,000 per nurse per turnover. So there is both human and financial loss there that you can't necessarily recoup. So really important to work on engaging and retaining the frontline staff. And I see we have a few comments in the chat. I'm just going to jump backwards here. Looking at AI writing clinical notes and training on how to better use AI. So that I think that is very much what the future of healthcare is focused on, is the utilization of AI. So definitely agree there, and we'll talk more about that in just a moment. What does this mean for each of you as registered nurses, either working in the healthcare system right now, entering it shortly, or working in healthcare and about to enter a different role based on your increased time in academia? You're really entering an exciting and truly ever-changing world. I will say that now more than ever, you have a voice, and it's so important to find an organization that values that voice and that wants you to continue to use your voice to make change. You have options, and at the end of the day, the future of healthcare is yours to shape. So let's focus on making it about our patients. Let's make it about our communities and about one another. We really want to make this the best that it can be, and that comes down to you and to me and to all of those who are working around us to offer the healthcare delivery systems that we have. So I'm going to ask two questions of you. And again, you can throw these in the chat. Question number one is going to be, what excites you the most about the future of nursing right now? And what concerns you the most? I know I've heard a little bit about the fact that that the future looks a little bit scary. What about it is scary? What about it is exciting to you? And so I will hold for just a moment to see some of these comments. We'll talk a little bit about that, and then we'll open up for questions. I will stop sharing my screen in the interim. Renewed interest in nursing with higher applicant numbers. That is a great sign of hope, and one that I think for a while looked a little bit ominous. I know during the pandemic years, we saw some variation in what nursing school enrollment looked like. So I absolutely agree. And as we look at that future pipeline, it's so imperative that we continue to recoup the bodies and the team members who will be replacing those that will be retiring. So that is definitely an important focus, and I agree 100% there. A concern that we might get too dependent on AI. Stephanie, I'd love to hear more about that momentarily. I don't think that you're alone in that concern. So we'll definitely chat about that. Getting back to bedside nursing, we are seeing a shift in that direction, which I'm really happy about. I think for some time we were seeing a transition away. And part of that was definitely due to our virtual era of COVID. Like I shared, there is a lot of virtual opportunity opening right now. And so I do expect that we will continue to see some shift and some slide back into those virtual roles. And so we'll really have to focus carefully on how it is that we can increase that engagement or make aligned roles, right? We may have virtual positions that can tie into nursing, whether it be for data collection. We are opening up a nursing position that may just do admissions and discharges. So really using creativity within that space to support the staff that are at the bedside. So the bedside nursing is going to be an important piece in if we play it right as we move forward into the future years. Mark shared the use of FNPs for areas not well serviced by healthcare. That is a tremendous point. I spent today in Albany at the Capitol with a group of New York State CNOs really focused on advocacy. And a part of that focus was on utilizing mid-levels, both NPs and PAs, in offering care delivery in areas that maybe are more rural or are challenged by the current offerings that we have in healthcare. And so I think a combination of increasing mid-levels and virtual care is going to be able to expand our reach in ways that we haven't had it before. Dr. Reed, what scares you? A loss of standard comprehensive approach to nursing from a patient perspective. All right, so I would love to hear more about that, and I want to hear more from Stephanie as well. If either of you are willing to come off of mute, let's chat a little bit about what those look like, because I think that they are very real concerns and ones that are not unique here to just you. So let's talk a little bit more about that. Dr. Reed, I see you are coming off mute.
So I have unfortunately had the opportunity to be interacting with inpatient healthcare settings with a family member recently, and I feel like care, at least in these instances, has become a bit fragmented, where we've lost that comprehensive scope of, is anybody thinking about bedtime care? Is anybody offering bedtime hygiene? Anybody checking to see if the patient actually bathed? I feel like the RNs were really good at medications and treatments, but I feel like the whole care that I remember, and I realize I'm old, so forgive me, but that those days of making sure that there was a fresh washcloth and a towel at the bedside, that the water was refreshed, making sure that the patient had what they needed, a toothbrush, toothpaste, if they didn't bring it, making sure that they were settled for bed, again, with a towel, a washcloth, getting cleaned up. And I feel like that is something I did not see. And it kind of saddens me that, I don't know if people are just thinking someone else is doing it, or what. I'm not sure what the thought process is there.
So I agree 100%. And I think we are seeing a significant shift right now into the world of metrics, right? So we are looking at the information that needs to be included into a technological system to feed reimbursement. We are talking about what it takes to get from admission to discharge. And somewhere in that algorithm, we are losing the humanity. So I know we have kind of a mix here of faculty, staff, and students. For those that are working in academia, I would ask that this is something that we really put back on as a highlight in the nursing schools. I am asking the same of the Belanger School of Nursing, in that we truly turn the focus back on the art of caring. And I know I touched on that briefly at the beginning, but that is foundational to what nursing is. And I agree 100%. We have moved into the realm of tasks, right? We have become a very task-oriented society. And that has made nursing transactional as opposed to transformational. And that can be very concerning from the patient end of things, right? If you ever are the recipient of care, or to your point, Dr. Reed, a family member of a recipient of care, you may feel that there has been a shift to transactional care. We also see, as we have more specialties coming in and out, that we may have breaks in communication, that one team member may come in from one service line and tell you one thing, somebody comes in from another service and tells you another. And so there's an opportunity to increase the collaboration amongst teams and the communication. So I think that is a definite opportunity as we move forward, and something that we need to focus on. That's a great point. I wanted to call on Stephanie as well on your feedback on getting too dependent on AI. Would you be willing to come off mic and elaborate on that a little bit?
Yes, of course. So I mean, I think everybody knows AI can be flawed. It's not something perfect right now. And I personally don't ever think that it will be perfect, at least in the healthcare field, because humans build so much connection, human and human. And I don't think that AI will get to that point where it could really relate like us humans do with each other. And I think that it could potentially lead to something concerning where maybe the nurse will question its own judgment and thinking that, whatever the device may be is telling you one thing when they learn something different or have a thought that they're not speaking on that could potentially even cost somebody's life just because they're so heavily reliant on AI. Um, and yeah, that I think that is one of my main concerns.
Absolutely. And I think that you are, as I mentioned earlier, not alone in that concern. It is up to those of us who are doing this today, right? We are right now on the edge of something very new. And so it's so important that we are speaking up as to what works and what doesn't work, and really feeding our information back into that system. It's inevitable that this will become a part of the world of healthcare, but ensuring that we have it as an avenue that supplements humans and doesn't fully replace humans at the bedside is going to be so important. As I shared, there's already been significant advancements in surgical services, in the pharmacy world, and even in the EMR, as to what that AI looks like. And it does a tremendous job of offering information. But again, we need to ensure that we, as the nurses at the bedside, are really continuing to offer that human touch, right? Ensuring that we are building those connections with the patients, that we are doing the advocating as humans, to feed into that system. So I agree. And I think that we really need to continue to advocate that AI be a supplemental resource within healthcare and not a full replacement. And nursing really has always been the holistic measure that is the eyes and the ears of the team for patients. And so we'll continue to have to fill that space and to offer ongoing advocacy for our patients within the system.
Okay, Jackie, I've got a question here. Unbeknownst, you probably don't know this, but tomorrow it's going to be, you're going to be queen of the day, and
Oh,
you
is that
can
so?
you have, if you could make one change, one wish for the nursing profession, and it would happen, one thing, what would it be?
For me, it would be to return holistic focus to the bedside. So, because what we're seeing so much of right now is a fragmentation of focus, right? There's so many focuses in so many directions that we're losing our centralized point of contact. And so we're creating areas where healthcare at the bedside does not offer a full human-based care. As Dr. Reed shared,
Yeah.
you can feel that transactional component, and we're losing the people in the process. Whether we are creating healthcare deserts, by focusing on bringing specializations to only small areas and losing pockets in between, or the fact that we are just not able to offer full services in the locations where we do offer care. It is so important that we have a focus on the bedside again. We have lost that, and so I think it's interesting and great to see, that Natalie, you mentioned, the focus on getting back to bedside nursing, because we are seeing some shifts there. So if I could put the love back into bedside, that is something I would want tomorrow.
Okay.
She's
Very
talking
good.
to you, Natalie. She said that if she could get,
Yep.
Oh, Christine, if you're talking, you are on mute.
Yeah.
no, sorry, I was talking to Natalie.
Oh, no problem at all. No problem at all.
Mute yourself. Oh, I'm back.
Okay.
I just stepped away for a minute.
You're allowed, no problem. I was just commenting on your comment about getting back to bedside nursing again. That is, if I could have one wish filled tomorrow, it'd be really putting the love back into bedside, because we lost some of that over the past number of years, and it's created a more fragmented environment for our patients.
That fragmentation is pretty unbelievable. And I've been, not only am I a nurse for many, many, many years, but I've also been a patient and in the hospital setting, and I was petrified, truly. And I won't say where I was, but it's, that because everything is so, what was normally just nursing duties has now gotten farmed out to all these other people. So not one person really knows me as a patient. And I think
Absolutely.
it's too much gets missed.
And
Yes, no, I agree 100%. I was sharing a moment ago,
Mhm.
as we see this broadening range of specialties, it's excellent in that we have these great minds in each area. But what you're hearing is one thing from person A, one thing from person B, one thing from person C, and there
Mhm.
isn't a full picture, right? The opportunity to have that team communication is oftentimes lost.
Mhm.
And so you don't, to your point, have one person that can come to you and say, I understand you as a full human, and here's our plan for you. And it makes it much more transactional, and you lose the bigger picture there. So finding a transition back into getting dedicated humans at the bedside, as opposed to breaking up that work, is going to be a challenge. It's the right thing to do, and it's, I think, what we all want in terms of offering the best patient experience. But as we look at ensuring that we have that creativity and that flexibility and building our future workforce, it's up to us to paint that picture so that people want to get back into that world.
and I
I,
wanted to comment on that because I worked as an RA for a couple months, and me, like, I wanted to build connections with the patients there, but even me being an RA, they're trying to build connections with the patients to make them more comfortable. The nurses and my other workers would encourage me not to do that because of the fact that there was so much work to get done, and that's what really sucks about um I guess the healthcare. Maybe it's not in every facility, but I heard that that's happened a lot.
Yeah, no, you're not wrong. I think over the past 5 years, we've seen, as we've looked at these really challenging staffing situations that hospitals have been faced with, there has been an increased workload because there's been a decreased team. And so rebuilding those teams is part of the work that we have ahead of us right now. I will say that we have been really fortunate at Ellis to rebuild a lot of that team. Our vacancy rate is down. Our agency staffing is down, and so we're really able to keep a dependable team at the bedside. And one of the things that we're moving towards right now is utilizing virtual techs in some capacity. So really two-way video monitors for patients that are a little bit more confused, um, to allow for our patient care techs who are sitting at the bedside on those one-to-ones right now to get back to the rest of the floor to be able to help ambulate patients, bathe patients, things like that. And because what we have seen for years now is that all of our techs are sitting as sits, and we don't have the assistants on the floor. So again, another avenue to utilize technology in a way that is supplemental and allows the team to get back to working together and increase the feel of the number of staff on the floor so that you're not in such a rush and so that you can actually spend quality time with a patient. To Dr. Reed's point, you can go back to ensuring that patients have baths or braiding patients' hair or rubbing their backs. That is something that has been lost for a number of years, largely because we have become very tasky. We have a list of 50 things that we need to get done and 77 things that we have to document on it. So while we're not going to eliminate the documentation portion of it, we can find ways to streamline the care and offer supplemental utilization of virtual team members so that we can get the team back to working on the actual human. But that's not something that's just going to inherently happen. We have to put a lot of thought and focus on it. And it really does begin at the educational level, rebuilding the foundation of care about humans as humans first. We really have to go back to putting the art of caring into nursing. Does anyone have any questions on kind of where we are, where we're going? Any thoughts or feedback? Natalie?
Yes, I have to make sure I've got all my buttons pressed. Yes, one of the things that I find challenging, and I'm sure other nurses do too, is again, we talk about that time, and I really loved what you said about having enough staff or enough people so that nurses can actually do their job as a nurse and not just be that task oriented just to check the box. I think the other piece of this is because we really stress EBP in what we do, and allowing nurses to be able to do that within their clinical settings. So actually be able to participate and have the time, because I really do think it's a matter of time.
I
Go ahead.
Sorry, I agree 100%. So one of the things that we're focusing on right now as we work towards ANCC's Pathway to Excellence is really building a space in the schedules to allow for an increased participation in shared governance. So a lot of that means having time during the day that we are taking a couple minutes here and there during a nurse's shift to, during our huddle, talk about what's going well and what's not going well. You know, where do we have efficiency challenges? Every shift we have what we call a tier 1 huddle, where the nurses and the nurse leader run through what does our staffing look like? What does our method look like? So are we having issues with transitions of care, or maybe transfers from the ED to inpatient? How is our equipment? Did we have any malfunctions there? Any method concerns? So as we look at each of those areas, really saying, are there gaps in the processes that we have? Are there concerns with our flow that aren't working? And allow the nurses to say, you know, this process isn't working. It would be better if X. And then, as I mentioned earlier, that it's the job of the leader then to sit back, support that, and remove barriers. You know, the nurses shouldn't be having to take the time out of their day to rebuild systems within the EMR. But if there is a better way to document something that's a better workflow or that aligns more closely with evidence-based practice, then the leader takes that back and does the behind the scenes work to build that into the day-to-day for the nurses. So I think that I agree, time is a precious commodity, especially as we're looking at that work-life balance for kind of the future state of the workforce. Not everyone wants to put in 60 hours a week. And so the ability to do bits and pieces of that kind of in bites during their shift is helpful. For our nurses who do work 312s, we also, you know, have the extra, those 4 hours if they would like to pick up time that is paid for meeting time or education time for nurses to participate in shared governance or to do research on evidence-based practice. We also are really putting a lot of focus on clinical ladders, allowing for nurses to do research projects, to be a part of a club, to work towards an evidence-based practice project that we can then put into focus or put into action. And that comes with compensation as well. So it's really encouraging and financially promoting the opportunity for nurses to work on growth for themselves in a way that can also transfer to growth at the bedside.
That's terrific. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Any other thoughts, questions? We have a few more minutes. And I won't hold you hostage if there's not.
Is that my hand? Yes. Hi.
Hi there.
I can never find the hand when I'm looking for it, but I see there's a hand there. That's I know it's my mouse, not the hand. I was actually just recently, right now, excited to hear you talk about the clinical ladder and wanting your faculty, your staff to get involved with evidence-based projects, because, you know, that's exactly what our doctoral students are going to need to do. We have the psych students now, and hopefully shortly we'll have the FNPs. It's wonderful to think that your facility might be a place that we could use. So I will keep you in mind.
Please do. I would absolutely love to partner on that.
Yeah, that sounds exciting.
Absolutely. And I think that that's, that's a very symbiotic relationship, and that we allow for the growth opportunities for those students, but also we benefit from
Yeah,
hearing evidence-based practice from those that are really living it and digging deep into it every day. So would love to connect on that.
good. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Any questions from any of the students here? We've had, I think, a couple already, but anything else out there? This was really good, Jackie. Thank you for doing this. I'm really glad we recorded it too. I think the people who have listened to it have really gained a lot of insight. So thank you. Hopefully, the people who've missed it will be able to go and listen to it because it's really been helpful. So, and we have Richard putting something. Oh, he's an A student from SUNY Polytech. He's putting in his chat. So let me see if I can read it completely. And he's just beginning to fulfill his monthly programming event requirements for A's, but this was a good virtual presentation about nursing, and it made him interested in learning more about healthcare. Hey,
I'll
Richard,
take you.
nursing is, we've got a great undergraduate nursing program, and he's in accounting and business administration. So, well, that's good too. But I'm not. He says I'm not smart like the guys in healthcare and STEM.
Nonsense. We
Well,
love a good business administration team in nursing. So let me tell you, there's always an avenue to help support as an operations manager.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
need financial analysts. So anybody who's into accounting and numbers is great in healthcare.
Yeah.
Happy to convert you if we can.
Thanks for those comments, Richard. So, and
Yes,
glad you
thank
were
you.
able to show up. So, any other thoughts or comments from anyone? Jackie, again, thanks a lot. We appreciate it. I'm looking forward to meeting you live on Friday at the symposium, and so. But again, we appreciate it very much, and thanks for those that have attended. It's been a good week so far in presentations. So we're halfway through. So thanks a lot, and again, thank you very much, Jackie.
Thank you so much.
Thank
And
you,
thank you to
Jackie.
everyone who attended. Really appreciate it, and have a great
Thank
rest of the
you.
week.
Thank you, Jackie.